Just checking audio online, thank you.
Sounds good, Ton. Can you hear me? Sound check, Ton. Check, Ton. Check one, check two.
I can hear you online. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just checking audio speakers in the room, thank you.
We can hear okay, Ton. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you, thank you. Check 1, 2, 3. That's perfect.
Sound check for Ton. Online, 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2, 3, check.
I love it when technology just decides not to work at all. Oh, there we go. Well, good afternoon or evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Murdoch, the Mayor of Oak Bay. I'm going to call the regularly scheduled meeting for June the 9th to order. Time is 7 o'clock. As we call the meeting to order, we'd just like to acknowledge that we gather and hold our meetings in the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, recognizing specifically the Lekwungen-speaking people known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt or Kasapsum nations, and just honoring that their connections to these lands and adjoining waters continue to this day. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Is there any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? We have adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 26th at both 5 and 7 p.m. Moved, seconded, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Sorry, I should have asked if there's any changes or corrections, but didn't see any hands. Then we just need a receipt of these three committee minutes and public hearing reports. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on those items before we? Nope. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That's our sort of procedural pieces with minutes out of the way. We now move to mayor's remarks. Mine are going to be brief. It's a warm night in here, and I don't think we want to stay around any longer than we absolutely have to. I do just want to point out the official community plan survey is ending tonight. So if you haven't yet had a chance to fill in the survey, please do that. Your input is really, really important to us. That ends at midnight tonight, so please get your information in. We still have the community annual questionnaire is still open for input as well, and that's related to spending priorities and council priorities. And just a couple of
recording in progress.
Things. One, I just want to thank the organizers of the Oak Bay Tea Party this weekend, another successful event attended by many thousands of people. I don't think I've ever seen the beach so full during that event. There was thousands of people on the beach, not just in the event itself, but it was good to see all of the energy and things down at that park. And coming up this week, we have our first night market this Wednesday. So Oak Bay, right on Oak Bay Avenue out in front here is closed off, and we have a full night market going. And then Saturday is the Spring Nosh coming up. So I hope you're able to attend all of those community events as well. They're all slightly less chaotic than the Tea Party. Now we move to the public comment and question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council on matters of interest to Oak Bay. These are items that are not on the agenda. The items on the agenda that are subject to public input, we will invite you forward to speak to those individually. But this is about anything else that's not on the agenda. And someone just circulated a document with a picture on it, so if that, maybe that person can kick us off. If they want to speak to that, yeah, please come forward. And you can help demonstrate the appropriate process here. Have a seat. Yep, right there. You're going to push the middle red button, and if you just state your name and your municipality of residence, you don't have to give your address, and then you have up to 3 minutes to speak to council on an issue if you're, cause it's on, and you don't have to be too close to it. It will pick up your voice.
We're okay?
It should be good. Yep.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the time and the energy. My name is Chris Chown. I live at 904 Island Road in Oak Bay and have been there for 31 years. I'm here to talk to you today and make some comments about the process for the official community plan and in particular, Bill 44. The reason I'm addressing this is because I am currently subject to that by a development that's going on next door to me at 916 Island Road. This project is, I'll be as succinct as I can, but there's a lot here. This project is being built under the strata division. It is a 3-story duplex strata title. It's approximately 30 feet in height, and it occupies most of the back part of the property. Our properties on Island Road do have laneway access. It's not much of a laneway. It's pretty dusty and lumpy and floods frequently, but it's there. What has happened in this process has disturbed me and my family immensely. We have and are experiencing trouble right now with what's going on with the project because it's so terribly upsetting. We lived there for 30 years. We've invested heavily in our property through upgrades and safety and some aesthetic values, trying to maintain the character of the house. This new and the neighborhood. The current place where I live is 104 years old. The property on the other side of this development at 916 is about 114 years old. There are 2 houses across the road that were built and are now heritage status, built in 1896. The houses across the laneway are all in the 1920s and 30s, all similar craftsman style, or most of them, all very well maintained, and a lot of pride of ownership there. So the neighborhood in itself is almost typical of the good stuff that Oak Bay represents until now. Now we have a 3-story grotesque piece of architecture in the back that is commonly known as stacked box design, and it's just does not fit. It never will fit. So I recognize that I'm too late coming to the party here because the decision's been made, the permit's been issued, and it's already under construction. A point I'd like to make is that I believe the process is flawed of issuing building permits, and I recognize the pressure that Oak Bay Council has been under and by the provincial government to get things moving and remove red tape and all that kind of stuff. The net result of that is bad. At least in my case it is. We now have a building under construction that delivers nothing for Oak Bay except bad news. There are increased loads on infrastructure there that have not been properly addressed, in my opinion, things like water table and storm drainage. There's other things there like noise and dirt pollution, a lot of things that are with that. It doesn't seem to ever have hit any consideration points or discussion points for anybody. The other thing that's particularly upsetting is the way it was announced. And I didn't find out about this project until after the fact, and my neighbors are all in the same position. So we didn't get a chance to say anything. We didn't get a chance for input, and that's upset everybody. Every day I have discussions in the alley with people walking their dogs or their children, and it's pretty nasty stuff. So I just want to say that the effect on my family because of this has been devastating. My wife and I are both in our mid-70s, and our plan was to retire and live there till our dying days. And now we're rethinking that. We have to rethink that because we're not sure if we can tolerate a 30-foot high building 6 feet off of our property line. The sight line, we've lost our privacy there. We've certainly lost our serenity. And the reason I say we've lost our privacy is because this building, as you might see in the pictures there, has 2 balconies on it. One all on the 3rd floor, both on the 3rd floor, one on the east side and one on the west side, which is laneway side. It looks right down on our deck. It looks on my backyard. It looks into our windows on the rear of the house. The other building on the
I'm going to have to
north
ask you
side.
just to wrap it up, just because I have to give time for anybody else to come and speak as well. I take your point, but if just perhaps you could just complete your thoughts on this one. And we are available to meet as well if you wish to come and talk about this some more.
Okay, just to close, I'd like to say that it would be a great thing, I think, for Oak Bay if you could take back control of the process. And it seems to me like you've lost that. And that's a very sad thing, because the path ahead, if you continue like this, is not pretty for Oak Bay. And it's devastating to property owners and taxpayers, and it's not progressive at all. All it does is satisfy developers. That's it. So I thank you for the time and energy and the
Thank you.
opportunity to say my words.
No, thank you for coming tonight, absolutely.
Okay.
And
Thanks very
I
much.
just, as you sit and invite the next person up who wants to come forward, please come forward. And as they come forward, I'll just make a comment that, end of the day, we try to do our, council did its best to look at all the possible permutations and approaches to this. We do know that there's going to be some positive and some negative outcomes from it. And so we'll be learning through this process a little bit as well, with some limited capacity for change. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jake Richardson, and I live on the Brighton Greenway in Oak Bay. Through you, Mayor, I want to go on the public record as resenting the exorbitant property tax increases when the money is plundered on these elaborate open houses catered by Starbucks, I might mention, okay, in the guise of caring about public input in the municipality. Also, the printing of full-colour brochures entitled Oak Bay Guidelines for Infill Housing. Then, when an ADU application comes before the council, it votes against these guidelines. The fix is obviously in. I reiterate what the prior speaker said.
Thank you for speaking, Ms. Richardson. Please come forward, and then someone at the back. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's Karen Wonders, and I spoke here 2 weeks ago about the need for a crosswalk at Windsor Park, and at that time I described my elderly neighbor who has a very hard time getting across the street at Transit and Windsor intersection. And this past week, again at this intersection where people speed through and do not keep to the 30 park zone, in front of my house I saw a dog hit. The dog was hit by a speeding van going 60. The van did not stop, although for sure he will have felt the impact, and also the dog made a terrible screaming noise and managed to run off, and I assisted the dog walker and found the dog, and the dog was taken to the vet and has survived. However, it just speaks to the need to do something about the traffic situation at Windsor Park, because this is the third time I've seen a dog hit in front of my house by speeding drivers. And everybody here knows it's not just the dogs, it's the children in the park. And yesterday, in association with the Oak Bay Tea Party, the park was really full, lots of cars parked. And there comes my friend who also lives up on Windsor. And she's in a electric wheelchair. Some of you may know her with her service dog, Alice. And she can't go across the street at Windsor and get onto the sidewalk in safety. So I walked with her, navigating these parked cars, oncoming traffic, going too fast. She has a dog, I have 2 dogs, and it takes her from Windsor Pavilion all the way to Transit Road to find a sidewalk. There are no sidewalks that she can get up onto with her mobility wheelchair. So again, it just illustrates the need for this crosswalk. And I did phone Steve Renwick, the Department of Engineering, and again suggested like the real solution would be a roundabout at that intersection to slow speeders and make them aware that they are entering a park zone. And also, just the last note is I wrote to the manager of parks. I haven't had an answer. It was a week ago, and told him that there's a break in the cedar hedge, which borders Windsor Road, and there's a goalpost right parallel to it, and there's kids playing there all the time. And it's not just the little dogs that ran out on the street, one was hit. It's kids that are chasing balls. And there should be really an effort made that cedar hedge is maintained and not let gaps for the safety of people using the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wenders. Please come forward. You've heard the
Hello.
process, just name and municipality and off you go.
So my name is Rochelle. I just recently
Sorry,
moved.
can you get your full name?
Rochelle Briscoe.
Thank you.
I recently moved, but I used to be just down on Oak Bay and, Madison and Brighton there. I'm the owner of the dog walking company of the little dog last Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. that got hit. I'm the one that drove that dog to the emergency vet. I'm the one that has built that relationship with that guardian, who are a retired couple for the last 2.5 years. And so I'm speaking in addition to what Karen just shared, and I'm asking you to please do something. And my company is called Loki Dog Walks. We started during COVID. We walk almost 100 dogs. I've got a team of 8 walkers across the city. We walk dozens of dogs in Oak Bay every day. And this is a problem. And so I've been walking all day and I'm busy, but this is a priority, and I assured the guardians I would come and say my 2 cents and advocate for the safety of our community. So she was a little pup that was excited and ran out, but regardless of the circumstances, I wasn't there, I didn't witness it, but Karen did. And so her and I were on the scene a week ago, and she said the driver was excessively speeding. Did not stop. If it had been a dog any larger, she may or may not have survived. So she got very lucky. But again, it could have been a child. It could have been any, it's not excusable. So I'm just speaking up again, reiterating this. I know there's a petition going around, Friends of Windsor Park. I'm going to try to share that with our client base and with my team as well. That's it. Thank you for
very much.
everything. Yeah.
Just, I think for people's interest, there is, at the end of the meeting, at the last meeting, there was a notice of motion given, and we'll be looking at consideration of some safety measures, crosswalks, et cetera, for pedestrians in the area. So just so that people know that it was heard last time. You can come forward. There's somebody with their hand raised online as well. So come forward, and I'll invite the person online to speak first, and then we'll go to you. We have Rick Lee online. Welcome, sir.
Thanks very much, Mayor.
Yeah, we can hear you. Just speak as clearly as you can. It's a little bit muffled.
Very good. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yes, unlike the speakers who preceded me who have existing problems, I'd like to propose that council do something positive to prevent future problems. And as a resident of Monterey Avenue between the fire hall and the village, we oppose the proposed bike lanes on Monterey, St. Anne's, and Bowker Avenue. We used to be cyclists, and we had no problem at all. And now we're necessarily seniors who must drive the car. I now have a handicapped sticker, and I'm sure there are many in our community who suffer the same issues. We have never experienced any insecurity on the road, either as cyclists or as drivers of the car. And to impose the bike lanes simply has too many too many negatives. I'd like to remind council that years ago, I attended council in person, and it was in the times when council was considering placing a parking lot at 1531 Hampshire, which property is owned by the city. And many of the neighbors were against this because we wanted to retain our block as a residential area. We did not want an increase in the number of cars parked in that property. So the balance was that instead of putting a parking lot at 1531 Hampshire, the council decided that we would, on the adjacent streets, have 2 hours parking. And this has turned out to be a good balance. And I really urge the council to rethink this idea of putting bike lanes, which would move all the parking off our street, of which I believe is between 30 and 40 cars a day, or at one time, I should say. And I say this as hopefully as a friend of the businesses, because if you take away all this parking, I have to ask, where are these people to park their cars? You're just moving a problem from one area to, you're creating a problem rather than solving one. And I think that probably 25% of the people who park on our block alone are seniors, and another 25% anyway are young families that come and patronize the businesses on Oak Bay Avenue.
Mr. Lee, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. It's been a little over 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So anyway, we're against these bike lanes, and I certainly urge council to give serious consideration to where tradespeople who service all us on Monterey, St. Anne's are going to park. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. I can probably just provide a little bit of an update and process regarding so there are 9 routes sort of identified as cycling corridors in Oak Bay. Those are going to go out for public input to give some guidance on the type and nature of the design that might be appropriate for the different streets. So I would just ask that if you have an interest there, anybody, the businesses or the residents, that's a broad input into all things cycling, and certainly would appreciate your thoughts at that time as we consider what possible treatments might be appropriate for those streets. So to you, Mr. Lee, but also just anybody else that might be here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Same process, just name and municipality.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Murdoch and ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is David Taggart. I live in Oak Bay, literally in the middle of Oak Bay, and I have for the last 8 years. Whole communities and societies are eventually swallowed up by criminality and nonsense because collectively they have agreed to believe and affirm what is false. Jurisdiction is not a hard line on the water. What we have here in Oak Bay are overlapping jurisdictions. In my hand is a legally binding document which is de facto prima facie evidence that the Oak Bay Police have full authority and jurisdiction to police all of Oak Bay, from Mary Todd Island to Haynes Park, Willows Beach, Cattle Point, and around to Cadborough Bay, up to the boundaries shared with the municipality of Saanich and much of the water in between. Grossly inadequate policing policies and confusion regarding policing responsibilities on the water has had a very detrimental effect on waterfront property owners, the Oak Bay Marina, the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, local mariners, and the enjoyment by local residents and tourists of our parks and beaches. derelict vessels have regularly been used as a platform for criminal activities against private property and other vessels on the water. They have operated with impunity, with little or no fear of law enforcement because little or no law enforcement exists. This can be easily rectified with no real added cost to the municipality. As a result of the growing public outcry, the newly initiated Sea Watch initiative has been implemented. Regrettably, it is already proving to be grossly misdirected, ineffective, and a waste of time and resources. It is even proved to be dangerously hazardous, and proof can be easily provided to you, Mayor, to support these assertions. In my hand is a copy of one of 4 yearly reports produced by myself and Mr. Robert Hall. This 2018 report was submitted to RCMP Marine Unit Liaison Officer Peter Attrell, now retired. Copies were also submitted to the Oak Bay PD and the municipality of Oak Bay. A review of this report compared with what is in the bay today will show about a 50% reduction of garbage, derelict vessels, and non-compliant moorings, etc. This is partly due to the result of the True Sea Watch program initiated 10 years ago by Mr. Robert Hall, and I came on board about 8 years ago. Mr. Hall and I have in fact been the boots on the ground 24/7 for the last 8 years. We know what's happening out in the bay and all the details. Our combined efforts have brought threats of violence to our person, physical assaults, and hostility for choosing to monitor and report on the hazards arising in the bay year by year. Even law enforcement has demonstrated frustration with us. Even you, Mayor, ignored a very detailed report that we gave you after providing you with a tour of local waters just after your election. You remember? It was a detailed report just like this with a map of the bay and everything that's in it. The inadequacies and
Mr.
failings...
Taggart, I am going to have to ask you just to kind of wrap it up.
Okay,
We're
I'm
well over
almost
the 3
done here.
minutes.
I thought I timed this to 3 minutes. The inadequacies and failings of individuals in the Coast Guard and Transport Canada are also being ignored, like responsibility for 2 of the 3 wrecks that sank this past winter storm season. Robert and I would like to meet with you, Mayor, and we'd like to share with you some of the things we've seen and the details that we can share with you and the solutions. So if you would be willing to meet with us, we would love to meet with you.
Thank you, Mr. Taggart. I'd be happy to, and I'm also happy with just scheduling the first meeting of the Derelict Vessel Task Force, and I'll make sure that you get an invitation to speak to them as well.
Do you need my email, phone number, all that stuff?
Yeah, if you can email me at just mayor@oakbay.ca, and I'll reconnect with you.
Mayor@oakbay.ca, yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come and speak to members of, or to council on any matters related to Oak Bay? That was a good cross-section of topics that we kind of helps explain some of the theories that we had getting coverage on. Don't see any hands popping up here. I don't see any online. All right, I'm happy to bring this back into this meeting, to the next item on the agenda. Next, item 7.1 is our grant and aid application adjudication. This is one of the less, somewhat enjoyable and somewhat difficult jobs we have of having a limited amount of money to hand out to community organizations. And so we have a process where we submit our thoughts ahead of time. Our Director of Finance and Asset Management, Randall LaChance, takes them away and creates some information for us to average them. So why don't I hand this over to Ms. LaChance to introduce the item tonight.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening. Staff are now returning to Council for decision on award of the 2025 discretionary grant and aid budget. On May 20th, 2025, at Committee of the Whole, Council received the full list of applications and received presentations from applicants who so opted to present. In keeping with prior year's process for adjudication, individual council assigned values have been averaged and are included in the agenda this evening. Staff are recommending that Council consider the averaged councillor assigned grant and aid totals and award the average amount, We are prepared, as we did last year, to take council direction on assigned values and update the worksheet and totals as we go. You will note that the total of the averaged amounts exceeds the council directed threshold of 90%. That is a council direction received in previous years to reserve 10% of the annual budget for future purposes or to be assigned today. All assigned values individually from each of council were below total threshold, but when combined did come in slightly above the 90%. If average amounts are awarded, the reserve amount would be lower by $1,590. And at this point, I can answer any questions. And when you're ready, Mayor, Your Worship, I will be able to pull that worksheet up for your support tonight.
Thank you, and thank you for the extra printed copies here in front of us for people to refer to as well. It's good to have those paper copies around. Before I go to council comments and questions, it is a topic open to public input. The weighted averages have been published, and I just wanted to give an opportunity, if any members of the public did want to talk to us about any of these grant items before we get into the weeds, I'm going to provide the public input opportunity at the beginning of this to provide any feedback. So I'm just going to look either in person or online. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to council about any of the grant and aid application aspects? I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to come back to this table, and I'll start a speakers list. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Yes, Mayor. I just want to let you know that I do have a conflict of interest with the Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission as I sit on the board. So I would ask that we perhaps leave that one to the very end, and I can perhaps recuse myself for the conversation in regards to that line item.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll make sure that we come back to that at the end and do that. Other questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much through you to Ms. LaChance for all of the hard work you did around this process. Not an easy thing to do. I just have a question on number 8, which is the Friends of Uplands Park, and I'm just surprised that the request was $3,000 and we're awarding $2,900. I don't really understand why we just don't award the $3,000. It feels a little, it feels a little funny to me that we couldn't spring for another $100 to round up the amount. It's not so much the amount as it is the symbolism of the award. They do so much incredible work, and as you know, Margaret Lidke is a real tour de force in this area. So I would like us to reconsider and just top it up to $3,000. Thank you.
Sure, and I was going to take questions first, but if there's people, maybe what we can do is I can make a note of perceived changes. I will say these are all rounded up to the nearest 100 essentially, and so that's where we're at, but...
I'll turn it into a question then. Could we please increase the amount to $3,000?
So what I'll do is I'm just going to make some notes if people wish to revisit. I'm going to go back and do this by motion. I do think that we have to be a bit cautious. We're already significantly over our maximum amount, although we do have some buffer in there. And so we may want to consider, do we want to take one or two things off if we're going to be adding a few to the topics as well. But I'll start my list here of topics to come back to. So Friends of Uplands Park is there. Anyway, and so maybe that's the process I'm happy to take. If anybody else has items on here that they wish to see changed or amended, up or down, we'll take that. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I guess this is just a good time for me just to highlight the overlap that we have here with these grant applications with the grant and aid process that we have through the Arts Commission. And so as we continue our conversation today, I just want to remind Council that we do have a substantial contribution that Oak Bay makes to the CRD Arts Commission that is more than 3 times what we're looking at budget-wise today for this grant and aid process. I do have a motion arising to bring up later in the meeting to discuss with Council a potential refinement of communication and whether or not we feel that since we already are funding so much for the arts in our region, both in Oak Bay and otherwise, that on this particular grant and aid process, for instance, we have one applicant who was successful for the CRD grant, but has also applied for this process. We have another applicant who applied to the CRD and was denied, and we have a third applicant that didn't apply to the CRD. And I think that going forward, and no matter how we decide to deal with that today, I think going forward, we've really made a substantial commitment to the arts through a very well-run program that has many more intakes than we have here today at the table. And I would like to continue to support the CRD Arts Commission. And so I do bring this up because I see this as an opportunity where we don't necessarily, and this is coming from a huge art advocate, we don't necessarily need to support doubly at this table with a grant and aid process of something that we support substantially in the community.
Thank you. I have just a question to staff, because I went through this and I wasn't 100% clear. And that is, there was an ask here for the collector car show. And I believe the ask was for insurance. But is it, and so it's maybe can you just clarify for us, is that ask still there? Or is it?
It isn't there.
It is.
Oh, I know, but it shouldn't be there.
So should I, yeah, I'm talking to Ms. LaChance.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. That was withdrawn. My apologies. That would need to be redacted or crossed through.
On the list here, I have it still as $900 as a allocated amount. So I think that can come off automatically at this point.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or clarifications or changes that people might wish to see to this list? It's always sort of interesting, some of these, that they kind of come in. Some people obviously have very different opinions about the validation of some of these and the merit of repeating versus non-repeating grants. There is a grant guideline piece that we tend to try and follow. I don't see any other hands on these, so I'm happy just to take the request from Councillor Green to change the 2,900 to 3,000. Do you want to make that as a motion?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I will move that we change the amount awarded on this sheet from $2,900 to $3,000 as the annual grant. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor? Any
Thank you.
opposed? None opposed. I think no point in debating $100 to get Councillor Appleton.
So, sorry, Your Worship, and through you to staff, just to confirm then, the $900 for the Oak Bay Collector Car Festival is included in the awarded and rounded average. So, in fact, the 1,590 is less. That's you take 900 away from that. Do I get that correct?
So we're at 690 over, I believe, at this point.
That's correct.
now
So
it's
with
609 now,
yeah.
790
Yeah.
because of that. Okay.
And if I may make a suggestion, I can always put the running total up on the screen for council support.
Sure, we can do that. There was not a lot of motions for further changes, though, at this point, or comments,
No.
so we may not have many more to go. There aren't any, but go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Just, Your Worship, I would be, just to move things along, seeing no other motions to amend, then I would move that the rounded average for all of the submissions, with the exception of the Vancouver Island South and Film and Media Commission, be awarded. So again, with the exception of line 23, the Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission, all of the remaining amounts be awarded as per the rounded average on this sheet.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I know these overall, when you look at the budgets, like the budget that Councillor Smart has just referred to at the CRD for the Arts Commission, this is really, these are not large sums of money. However, that average is a large amount. So if we take it out right now and we don't deal with it, we could have lower grants to those who are left. So I'm not sure that process works for me very well, because we're sort of freezing what's there for everybody else when we may make a different decision because we're holding it aside. We may make a different decision about what will happen there, and then we have money left over that would we just then move another motion to change that? The process seems a little not quite workable to me.
Sure. Procedurally, I believe a motion can be made if someone wishes to open the conversation about the amount on the sorry, on the Film Commission. If that is moved and seconded to open discussion on that, then I would ask Councillor Braithwaite to leave. If there's not an interest in debating that, then and there's good reason that it'll be form part of the minutes anyway, so don't be shy. If people want to talk about it, let's talk about it. People who want to see it moved up or down, anything can happen there. If people wish to discuss it, then I said thinking a motion to do so would be in order. So I would just, at this point, I will just take that as a motion to amend the current motion, as far as I would be concerned. I'll just to make our procedures here very easy. So I'm going to leave that to people. Does anybody wish to make a motion they wish to discuss the Film Commission? Yes, moved. Yes. Is there a seconder? I'm not seeing any other seconders. Oh, sorry, Councillor second. Okay, so I'm going to take that as an amendment. So Councillor Braithwaite, can I ask you just to step out of the room? I'm treating this as an amendment to the motion, just as we go for it. I could receive retroactive, just, yeah. Okay, so we have Councillor Braithwaite out of the room, and just for any of those following along at home, we have the grant last year was $10,000. The grant asked this year was $15,000, and we've ended up here at a approved grant amount of $11,500. Councillor Watson, you made the motion. Perhaps I can get you to.
Thank you. And the reason for making the motion isn't necessarily to do with the amount that came out in the average, but just the process by which the Film Commission comes to us each year for really an ongoing operational item. And my musing is whether in fact the organization and its work should be funded in the same way that, for example, we fund well, it's not their model yet, but the way we found the South Island Prosperity Partnership, where there's an allocation and municipalities are sort of, well, they'd have to agree to that. But it seems to me that doing this on a sort of one-off basis every year doesn't really fit their model very well. So it's that I just wanted an opportunity to have a discussion about that. Maybe it's probably not going to, clearly can't affect whatever we do this year, but I wondered if we could have a discussion and then maybe I'd make a motion about what we do in subsequent years.
Sure. So procedurally, I think if it's not directly to the dollar amount, then I will probably leave it for the moment. I might suggest, if you're interested, hold it as a motion. If you want to do a motion arising at the end of the evening, that might be the simplest way of going about that. And a motion, maybe think about that. It could also just be a notice of motion at a later time. I think probably just something along the lines of writing a letter to the Film Commission asking if they would consider a different model of ask, so that they have a more of a membership model or something that would make just be a bit more certain for both them and for the member municipalities might be palatable. So you might want to think about the exact wording of that. Then we could ask Councillor Braithwaite again to leave the room for that consideration. Okay.
That would be fine.
Okay, so we had really there's not any vote on there's no motion being made. There was just an ask that we consider that. So I'll consider that amendment, if that was such a thing, concluded. Can we just get someone to knock on the door and ask Councillor Braithwaite back into the room? Oh, we still, yeah. Actually, you know what? Maybe just hold on one more second, Councillor Braithwaite. Just rather than asking her to leave the room again. Why don't we have put a motion on the floor then to approve the amount here, so we can consider that.
So moved, Your Worship.
Is there a second? Moved and second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Okay, now we can bring her back into the room. Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. You're all alone in a room with a fan. That couldn't have been too terrible. So back we have the motion that's on the floor, which is to consider the allocations as laid out here with the addition, change to the $100, the removal of the $900. That's the motion on the floor. We've already dealt with the Film Commission matter. So that's live on the floor. Any other further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That's concluded.
And I would just move receipt of the staff report,
Yep.
Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Ms. LaChance, that was faster than I was expecting. I hope you have a good rest of the evening. You had a motion arising, Councillor.
I
sorry,
do. Do you
Councillor
wish
Smart?
to receive that now or at the end of the meeting? What works best?
Why don't we do it at the end of the meeting where we can just deal with all new business? It's probably a better place for us to
That's
consider.
great. Thank you.
So then, thank you for that. We have up next the Heritage Revitalization Agreement, HRA 00011, and OCP Amendment OCP 0006 at 1558 Beach. We have Mr. McStravick, who's joining us to help. Gathering up information. I know you probably weren't as prepared for that to go as quickly as it did either for you, Mr. McStravick. And so with that, I just will note that we have the applicant representative here, Russ Collins, and the owner, Mike Miller, as well. And is Katie Cummer here? Oh, yes, Katie, Mr. Professor Dr. Cummer is here as well. So we have the applicant team here to answer questions. But first, we're going to take there is no public input on this matter. We have received many letters of interest. And should this, depending on where this goes from here, this will either go back to staff, to the applicant, or to or be forwarded to public hearing, depending on what the outcome of the discussion is tonight. Welcome, Mr. McStravick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just say a few words to introduce this item, and then, as you mentioned, the applicant team is here as well, and they have a brief presentation they wish to give. So this application is for a Heritage Revitalization Agreement and an Official Community Plan Amendment to facilitate the revitalization of the J.W. Morris House at 1558 Beach Drive, along with the expansion of that building to go from 7 to 10 rental apartment units. And the application would also create 3 new residential lots by subdivision, each of which would be developed with a single-family home, 2 of which would contain a secondary suite. Following council direction received on February the 10th, 4 bylaws have been drafted and they are being presented to council for consideration tonight. There's a Heritage Revitalization Agreement bylaw, an OCP Amendment bylaw, a Heritage Designation bylaw, and a Housing Agreement bylaw. Since the February 10th meeting, the applicants have also sent a request to the district that council consider waiving or varying the amenity cost charges and development cost charges that would be owing on this project as part of the HRA bylaw, as noted in the staff report which you have received tonight. The applicants are in attendance, and I will leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. McStravick. Mr. Collins, I believe you're coming forward, are you? But if you all want to come forward, that's fine as well, whatever your organizational structure you wish to do. But can I just ask you to just state your name, municipality, residence for the record?
I'm Russ Collins, and North Saanich is where I live, but I work in Oak Bay every day, so. Yep, I'll wait for you.
And do we have a presentation going up on the screen as well? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just have a short presentation.
Yep, that's great. Thank you, and thank you for that.
So good evening, Oak Bay Mayor and Council members. My name is Russ Collins from Zebra Design, and I'm here on behalf of our client, Mike Miller, along with our coordinating professional, architect Marco Simsek of Simsek Architecture. He's on Zoom tonight. Katie Cummer of Cummer Heritage Consulting is here in person, and Melissa Lim of MDI Landscape Architects is with us tonight via Zoom. Unfortunately, Mark Holland of West Plan Consulting isn't able to join us tonight. And this is Tina helping me with the presentation. So we were here with you back on February the 10th, where we reintroduced the Heritage Revitalization Agreement, or HRA, for the J.W. Morris House at 1558 Beach Drive in the Prospect Heritage Conservation Area, or HCA. Council's recommendation at that time was to move forward to first and second reading of our HRA. Council also requested that we bring the proposed development to the Heritage Commission for a second time, and we did, and that meeting was held on March the 5th. During the Heritage Commission meeting in March, the Commission members recommended that Council approve the HRA with two considerations. The first consideration was to obtain specifics on the materials being used in the new homes to ensure there is compliance with the Prospect HCA Heritage Conservation Area guidelines. As the project was presented to Council at that time, we were significantly in compliance with the Prospect HCA guidelines. However, per the review checklist, some of the recommendations were not yet met. This was due to the level of specification typically included on drawings submitted for these purposes of the HRA reviews, which didn't allow staff to properly assess the plans and confirm specific adherence to the HCA recommendations. So since that time, we have closely examined the checklist and discussed further details with our client, and are now over 90% meeting the recommendations of the Prospect HCA review checklist criteria. I have had recent conversations with Oak Bay staff to outline these measures and intentions, and they are pleased with the additional details that better meet the Prospect HCA guidelines. If Council wishes, we will add those specifications to our plans prior to the public hearing so that they form part of the bylaw. In reference to the second consideration made by the Heritage Commission, Katie Kummer, our Heritage Consultant, has reviewed these comments and has addressed them in the latest Heritage Conservation Plan. Katie is here with us this evening and will be available for questions. And thank you for your time, and we welcome any comments or questions you may have tonight. We also look forward to feedback from the community at a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Dr. Kummer, do you wish to speak to the specificity of the identified heritage elements?
Sure.
Why don't we get another chair up here for you? That's not.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Inappropriate to make you kneel beside this desk.
It seems appropriate, no? Thank you so much. You know, the feedback received was just with regards to the interior. So as you'll note, oh, it's gone now. It's just, we added an additional section specifically addressing the interior designation of the public space in the front hallway with specific items to be included and reference to the interior suites where possible, but we weren't able to fully commit to the interior private space in the same way, but at least for the public space, we were much more detailed and articulate in terms of what we were willing to commit to in terms of that designation as requested by the Commission. Good.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Imagine there's going to be some questions from members of council here for the applicant or for staff. So why don't I turn this over to members of council? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Patterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And through you to staff, it does say in the staff report there's a request to reduce ACC and DCC contributions to zero. And page 7 of the staff report notes there's an incremental effect on infrastructure and community amenities. I just would like clarification on who has the responsibility for the financial impact of supplying municipal services to the site.
Mr. Bull, Mr. Green, Mr. Mistravik. I'll let one of you wrestle for a microphone. Welcome, Mr. Bull. And for those who are watching online, Mr. Bull is our Director of Community Building and Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, in response to the question, there's not a set mechanism to recover the cost if there were a waiver or reduction issued. The program has been set up with anticipated developments for the future. Now, that said, the program doesn't specifically know how many units would be developed over time, so it is a bit of a program that is responsive to whatever development may occur. But yeah, as it stands, if council were to support a waiver or a reduction, that is cost that would need to come from other new development down the road or be funded by the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bull, can I just follow up and I'll go to Councillor Braithwaite. Just for clarification, what I read in here, and I just want to make sure I have a clear understanding. When we implemented the ACC, if amenity cost charges and development cost charges, shouldn't use acronyms, we did grant a 1-year window for applications that were currently in stream. So can you just maybe explain, as I understand it, heritage revitalization agreements are excluded from the legislation? Is that how this is not triggered? Do I understand that correctly?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, that's correct. So rezoning applications specifically are protected, but unfortunately heritage revitalization agreements are not. And that is a limitation of the provincial legislation, and that could be definitely one of the other things to consider in this case, because they are not protected by the Act that way. Thank you.
Okay. Fair enough. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks, Mayor. That was actually my question, but I'll just ask another one. So right now, there's no commitment from the proponent for any community amenities for this project whatsoever.
McStravick, then I'll go to the applicant. Mr. McStravick?
Thank you. Through your worship, the discussion about community amenity contributions is somewhat distinct from the discussion about amenity cost charges and development cost charges, but to answer the question anyways, the applicant's position is that the benefit to the community is the revitalization of the heritage resource and the significant costs associated with that.
Thank you. I'm happy to give the microphone over to the why or what is always helpful to think to have the applicant answer.
I just wanted to clarify, if I could,
Please,
Mayor,
go
through
ahead.
you, for revitalization, not restoration. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, Mr. McTravick.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship, it is the terminology used in the legislation is a heritage revitalization agreement. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Collins or Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. The request kind of came a little bit late in the process as we started speaking with staff, probably only a few months ago. We kind of, I would say, stumbled across this gap in the legislation that we assumed we were protected for 1 year under the legislation, and it turns out it's very specific to, as Mr. Bull phrased it, rezonings and development permits. However, in this case, the HRA falls in the middle, and from what we understand is that's the purpose of an HRA, to quasi become a master development agreement as such. And so for the last just over 24 months, we've been going on this basis, all the while seeing the incoming ACC DCCs effective, I think, January 16th, and shortly thereafter for the other bylaw. And that was the calculation that was also provided. The old calculation was also provided for independent land lift analysis, which was requested by staff for your benefit, which yielded no land lift in the project. So again, to McStravick's comment, we're trying to identify the heritage component and revitalization, as well as the 10 units of rental in Oak Bay in perpetuity as the actual amenity cost charges. And one other clarification, I believe it was Councillor Patterson that mentioned something to the effect of the off-sites. I'm not sure I understood the question, but what through your worship, was the question the cost of off-site servicing for this particular development? Okay, thank you. It's our intention to pay for all the off-site services required to service water, storm, sewer, electrical, things like that for the said properties, as would always be expected and intended. And then in addition to that, through the negotiation with staff and yourselves, to also do a full boulevard restoration on the Beach Drive frontage, as well as the Prospect Place frontage, including a significant road improvement as such to do with the condition of Prospect Place, which has already been considered up to this date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other questions to staff or the applicant? All right, I have a couple. Can the applicant just comment on the land lift analysis? Obviously, those are a point in time. Maybe just refresh my memory when it was done, and I guess maybe to staff on this one, who commissioned it. When it was done, and then do we anticipate that it would have changed materially since that time? Mr. McStravick?
Thank you, through your worship. Mr. Green is going to try to double check the exact timing, but I believe it was towards the end of last summer or early last fall when the land lift analysis was completed, and Mr. Miller has it here.
I directed it the wrong way, obviously.
In May of 2024, so
Okay.
it's just over a year
Just
ago.
a year.
Yeah,
Okay,
and so there has been no update to that study since then, of course. But
Fair
yeah.
enough. Okay, so costs have gone up some, but okay, a year ago. And then the bigger question, this is related to the applicant. Obviously, there's been a advertisement put into a paper here, and some neighbors have put together some thoughts on what they would like to see on that site, and I'm just curious. I mean, we're here to adjudicate the merits of this application, not sort of others, but I think it probably may be helpful for us to understand. You've probably had some time to think about that, and maybe if you have any comments on the viability of that, or you don't have to answer the question because it's not directly related to the application here, but I think it would be of interest to the public in terms of if you have thought about it, what you consider to be the viability or not of that suggestion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Approximately 2 weeks ago, received an email from one of the adjacent property owners, a friendly email, I might say, and I was out of the country. However, we were able to arrange a meeting, face-to-face meeting. The earliest possible date was last Thursday, and we had, I would classify as a really friendly, collaborative discussion with myself and two of the direct neighbors. And to answer your question more directly, I did have some time to think about it. A couple of comments. One is, first of all, I found the conversation very pleasant and with keen interest at heart. So I just want to start by saying that, and that's speaking sincerely. Number two is I also followed it up this morning in writing. As I said, I wanted the weekend to kind of think about it, because sometimes during the week things are coming at you, and I wanted to give it its due consideration. And I guess my answer to that is, and I think I put it in writing in so many words, every single application goes through many evolutions of consideration and somewhat of a pipeline. And this particular application, I can completely understand where these two neighbors were coming from, and I suspect that, just to be clear, I think it's not just two; it's maybe a handful of them that got together. I don't know the specifics of that, but my comment was somewhat in the spirit of this. So I don't want to repeat verbatim because I could be incorrect. But was our particular application has gone through many iterations, including two trips to the design panel, many trips through staff. Much work with our design team, in particular Zebra Design, Mr. Collins, engineering, political land lift, land lift analysis, and then I believe 4 trips to council. And I felt that, like any application, it's a bit of a funnel, and I felt that but most importantly, I felt there were strong merits in our current application and heritage revitalization agreement in its current form, and felt that it would be, if it's possible, would love to hear from the public at a public hearing. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the answer. Any other questions? Or yeah, go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Can I just clarify, was it actually 4 trips to council, or this iteration has only been to council? This is only the second time it's come to council. Is that not correct?
Does staff know in terms of, I mean, there has been 4 separate applications, I know that, but this is the...
I believe that this is the 3rd time the application has been in front of council tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And slightly changed, I think, each time it's come back, so, okay. So, looking around this table here, I don't have any other questions, so I'm going to turn to the table and seek if there's some direction of council that we can get to a debate process on. We can start with the motion to receive. How's that for a easy breaker?
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor of receipt of the report? Any opposed? None opposed. The rest of them aren't that easy.
How, would you like to proceed in the order that they're laid out here, Your Worship? Is there any particular order that they should be best be read in?
I think the order that are in here is probably appropriate. I'll trust that staff have them in an appropriate order.
Very good. Then I would move that official community plan bylaw number 4620, 2014, amendment bylaw number 4910, 2025 be read a first and second time.
Moved. Is there a seconder? It's moved and seconded. So this is our first chance to talk, and I think at this point this is not an official community plan amendment bylaw that we're going to hear to talk about the entirety of the application. So mover and seconder, do you wish to start?
I
motivate?
Absolutely, Your Worship. And so with your permission, with your comments speaking to the entirety of the application and its various components to it, I've heard very clearly about the interest in the neighborhood and neighbors in the HRA to attain the best heritage conservation value here. I will actually take a slightly different tack that I've taken before with respect to this when we talk about arguing the merits of moving forward to a public hearing to assess to allow the public to weigh in on it, whether or not it has enough merit to proceed. Part of what's weighing into my decision making is not merely the heritage values, but also the usage of the property, and how the council has heard me speak to how significant I feel it is to retain the rental building and to retain that character or that usage of that building, which itself goes back many years and has become part of the history of that building in that neighborhood. So in terms of assessing the merits of the project overall, heritage clearly, an overarching and very significant component of the consideration here. But for me also, the retention of that rental value, and clearly to maintain that building with its rental function and to provide that amenity for the community is very challenging to do. It requires significant investment. There's no way to do that without generating the investment in order to make those upgrades, and that building will require those upgrades in near term to be able to continue to function as a heritage building, or as a rental building, and as a heritage building as it currently is. We've seen a number of large square footage and large heritage buildings in the community be lost in the near term, just in the last couple of years. And those were, in my view, potentially buildings that could be converted for a multi-unit type of residential situation. And I think that those are, in my view, opportunities lost. So when looking at what to do with this particular home, I really want to see it retained and treated very, very carefully in the context of the heritage revitalization area, in the heritage conservation area. But I really also want to see that structure retained for rental accommodation well into the future. So again, the merits of the application to go to public hearing, Your Worship, both on the heritage side and on the rental value as an amenity for the community, is supporting my decision to support this, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Appleton. I'll seek others speaking to the motion, but to the overall piece of it. Go ahead, Councillor Watson, then Braithwaite.
Yeah, it's very difficult just to speak to the particular motion, which is about the OCP amendment, which seems quite reasonable, given that it is already a multi-unit residential building in effect that's standing there. So I don't, with that specific thing, I wouldn't have any difficulty with it at all. It just kind of acknowledges what exists. But I think that speaking more generally over the whole application, when we've had our previous discussions, we've weighed different values and benefits, and certainly retaining and increasing the amount of rental housing and in an offer of an agreement for in perpetuity would be a wonderful outcome for the community. And I think that there has been already quite a bit of give and take and adjustments to what's been presented, and that we have enough of a basis to go forward and seek the public's view on that package. In the perfect world, you might get absolutely everything that everybody wanted, but the land lift analysis that we received just over well, yeah, it was just under a year ago, actually, because it came to us after it was prepared, shows us that there is a significant contribution from the owner in actually bringing any of this about. And stopping the process now, not moving forward to public hearing, would add more cost and consideration to something that has already had a bit of public airing. Like we have already heard from the community. They've been at an open house. So I think that gathering that information and the discussions we've had and the iterations, the review by the advisory design panel, as the applicant said twice, which is the case, I think that we have a good, not just a good enough, like a good package to move forward to hear from our community. So that is why I would be supporting all 5 recommendations if they were moved.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, there is real keen interest from the neighborhood in regards to this application, and so I'm really disappointed that more consideration was not given to what the neighbors suggested. It really does increase the rental, but like the neighbors, I think that it can be done a little bit better. And I think we really have to remember that the primary purpose of the HRA is to protect and enhance the heritage significance of property. And so it should be an agreement to restore, preserve, and protect the buildings and heritage features. What's on offer is a renovation or a revitalization. It's not a restoration. Like, let's be clear here. So it's very outside of what the HCA should be doing. At some point in time, as this goes through, I think I'm quite sure I'm going to be in the minority of this, as I am going to be voting against each of these as they come up. So I really hope that when this does go to public hearing, which I'm sure it will, that we can get a real conversation going and that a lot of people will come out and speak, whether they're for or against it, whatever side they're on. I want people to come out and give us as council more information on how they feel as a community around this. And also at some point in time, and I'm not sure when would be the right time, Mayor, that I would, and perhaps you can help me with that, I would be willing to make a motion to refer it to the HCA working group for input before going to the public hearing. So I'll leave it up to you when I should be doing that. Thank you.
I will have to think about that. That is not an existing entity anymore, so it's hard to refer things to bodies that don't exist, but let me consider that. Maybe staff can think about that as we go through the speaking list as well. Councillor Patterson and then Smart.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I do appreciate certainly all the commentary we've had from members of the public and certainly from what the applicant has proposed too. I recognize that this application is in an HCA, and that makes it a little different, although it's somewhat of a unique HCA in that there are heritage homes, but there are also modern homes within the HCA. And in my opinion, a heritage revitalization agreement is intended to be a mutually beneficial arrangement that balances both private and public interests. And I do think what is presented to us here, and which I will support, this is a good attempt to balance the private and public interests in that, and it's always a trade-off between kind of philosophical and realism approaches to development. But I think there is a public benefit in that we do have with this the longer-term protection for the property and an extended life cycle, therefore, of the property, improved home rental strategies, and a more sustainable community in what we're doing in attempting to repurpose. And I recognize this is not strictly a heritage conservation undertaking for the building, but it does help us keep a sustainable community, and it brings a new life to a rehabilitated property that it does enhance our community longer term. So is it ideal? I don't know, but you could keep trying to juggle different components of it, but I think that really in this case the applicant has satisfied to a large extent the greater benefits of both public and private interests. So I'm happy to support this.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor. So make sure I have the right speaking order here. Yeah, Councillor Smart and then Green.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the comments around the table, and it is such a balance at this point. And I can't agree strongly enough with the amenity of maintaining this rental housing as well as the revitalization of this building. I do feel like there are many gifts being given to the community in this application. I also appreciate so much the community's tone in coming forward recently with really trying to come up with ways to make it even better and a win-win situation for the community. It's challenging. You know, we're talking about being a couple years in, a lot of back and forth. Like, at what point do you say this is worthy of going to a public hearing? The applicant really has listened, heard, changed a lot of things. You can't sometimes keep going forever to refine and refine and refine. I am very much in support of moving forward to public hearing for the current design. I would have preferred to see option 2, where we were actually adding in the conversation about the amenity cost charges, because I do feel like it's a technicality that we don't have the 1-year protection.
So just for the record, I was just going through my notes here. To Councillor Appleton's question, are we just going to do them in order? I'm going to leave the second bullet, which is the authorization bylaw 4912, which would consider that to be last, and then we can have a separate discussion on that piece. It will be dealt with separately, so we have the opportunity to have that conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that clarification, I will just summarize by saying I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Green.
Thank you. This is it's a challenging issue. There is passion on both sides of this issue. There is a need to be certain about the future. There's a lot of uncertainty right now with land use, as we know. And I think I really appreciate the input from the public and from the neighborhood in particular who live in the HCA. And I took the time to meet with some of the representatives. I also took some time to meet some time ago with with the designer who works with the applicant to look at the drawings, the current drawings. And I think the efforts that the neighborhood has made to influence that design have been commendable. That's what community activism looks like. And I really appreciate their efforts. My concern here, though, is longer term, and I am concerned about the vulnerability of this property should it not be restored and developed the way it's described. I'm very concerned about the fact that they are adding rental. They're increasing the number of units, and they will be rental in perpetuity. That's a huge thing in this current market. So many strata buildings rent for a year and then they convert to, I'm sorry, not strata. Rental buildings rent for a year or two and then they convert to strata. And a lot of people suffer as a result of that conversion. This building will not undergo that uncertainty. And I honestly believe that this is the best possible iteration of this property that we will probably see. And if this project doesn't go ahead, and I am a former member of the Heritage Commission in Oak Bay and chair, this means a great deal, and that's why I struggle, because I know the issues on both sides. But I have to say, in this current housing environment, with the provincial legislation bearing down on us, I think this is the best possible option for this property. And remember, this house was neither designated nor registered in Oak Bay as a heritage building. It is receiving the benefit of inclusion in the HCA, so that this enables it to be an HRA, but that is a huge factor. So I will be supporting this current application, but I do look forward to public input as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I'll keep my comments fairly brief. I think people have commented. I mean, overall, I'm supportive of this going towards a public hearing. I think it's a, our development planning process is intended to go through this iterative process and get to public hearing. Theoretically, in a reasonably timely way. This has gone back and forth a few times now to get to where we are, but it's complicated. I do just want to acknowledge the importance of the Heritage Conservation Area in this. I don't know that the J.W. Morris building as a non-registered building would have survived if it wasn't for the HCA being in place. It had no protection, and it was only because it was an identified, asset within the HCA that it has any protection, and that's really the trigger for this. And I think there's the Heritage Conservation Area guidelines sort of speak both positively and negatively about this kind of application. The changes are both sort of in line with, and in some ways contrary to, which is the nature of guidelines. They're sometimes difficult to interpret, and they do ultimately come down to us how we weigh them. It is, I think, at the heart of it, though, having, chaired that committee initially. I mean, the important piece here is that as change happens, it's not to stop change, it's to make sure that change is appropriate. And so I think that's kind of the lens I'm looking at this as to whether it meets that threshold to go to a public hearing and hear some more detailed feedback. Certainly positive to see this old building refreshed and protected, adding housing, protecting rentals. I think it's important, I do recognize this is not a restoration. It is a change, a building that's had many, many changes. First back at, it was like 80, 85 years ago, it started getting changed and had many changes. So I think, keeping the public spaces, and really appreciate that. To my mind, that was an important piece to look at some of those internal protections. And it does achieve the designation. I will say, it does not, when I put my pros and cons list, I do want to recognize it does, does much to improve the modifications, because they're a real higgledy-piggledy mess on that building that was so beautiful to start with. And that's a significant improvement. And of course, it doesn't actually restore it. So that's just the reality of the proposal in front of us. And so I think it's legitimate, I think, to talk about to question heritage revitalization agreements in the sense that we're not restoring the original heritage. So this is really an HRA, to my mind, in the context of a heritage conservation area, not to the building specifically. So that's kind of my logic and thinking on this. Overarching, I think I just want to respect the process that we've undergone to this date, which is we've considered, I think when this building first came up for consideration, and I remember walking around that building, and a lot of what I was hoping would come through is kind of what published recently was sort of, can we do more to highlight the building and restore it? That being said, I also recognize that we have to adjudicate the applications that are in front of us and whether or not they have merit. And so I just really want to just speak to the fact that I think this has met that threshold for me. And that really the only way to kind of force a rethink is to decline it. But I think even doing that without the prospect of a public input would be totally inappropriate. So yeah, very supportive of this going forward. On the face of it, to me, it meets enough positives here to see it move forward. But I am curious to hear what the public has to say as well. So those are my comments. Probably longer than I intended to make. So that's enough. Motions-wise, we have the discussion has been on the OCP, but we'll probably talk to the whole. In fact, what I might do is in order, and then we can talk to the ACC-DCC question as part of the second piece. So we're going to call the question on the first part. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. Then we move. Can we have a mover for the first and second time of 1558 Beach?
Your Worship, I think you're looking, the revitalization agreement is the one that deals with the ACC and DCC matter, so we're leaving that to the end. So then we would move to the heritage designation.
No, I'm just thinking we might as well just have that debate right now. Let's just skip it and we'll go to the next ones and then we'll come back to it.
Very good, Your Worship. So then I would move that the 1558 Beach Drive Heritage Designation Bylaw, number 4913, 2025, be read a first and second time.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Are we discussing? Any discussions on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? Oh, sorry, Councillor Braithwaite. My apologies, Councillor Braithwaite. Sorry. Got into the rhythm of it inappropriately. Go ahead.
So the next on the list, Your Worship, I would move that the 1558 Beach Drive Housing Agreement Bylaw number 4909, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time.
Seconder? Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed.
Further, Your Worship, I would move that Council consider the proposed OCP amendment in conjunction with the district's financial plan and the Capital Regional District Core Area Waste Management Plan.
Moved and seconded. This is a procedural piece that needs to be done. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That carries.
And then further, Your Worship, I would make the motion that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to register a Section 219 covenant of the Land Title Act to ensure the J.W. Morris House remains a rental apartment building.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I just want to know how solid is this covenant? Because we've had other covenants before us at council which we have been able to break. And so what assurance do we have that this covenant will stay in place for a good period of time, or do we have any?
I'm going to turn that over to staff. Mr. Mistravik.
Thank you, Your Worship. The covenant was drafted in concert with the district's own lawyers, I should say, from a respected law firm which specializes in local government matters. And so we are very confident in the wording of the covenant that it would do what it sets out to do, acknowledging that it would be within the power of a future council, of course, to relinquish a covenant, somewhere down the road. But as for the wording of the covenant itself, we're quite confident in it. Thank you.
Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you, and if I could just have a follow-up through you, Mayor. And so what would happen if or when that building is sold and a new owner comes in? They will have to then follow that covenant unless the council of the day allows them to break that covenant. Is that what my understanding is?
Mr. Mistravik.
Through Your Worship, that's correct. A covenant is a legal agreement between two parties, and if the district, as one of the parties, at some point in the future decided it was no longer in the public interest to be in that agreement, then the agreement could be terminated. That's possible. Or amended.
Sorry, but it does go through on title, correct?
Mr. Mistravik, just for clarification, it does carry forward on the property title.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's correct. And I should mention also that the housing agreement bylaw, which is before council tonight, largely duplicates the wording of that covenant. So there's sort of a double layer there with the same protection.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the motion on the floor right now, is to authorize to register a Section 219 covenant. That obviously wouldn't go through until everything else is completed. But I don't see any other discussion on that, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed on that. That carries. And what I think I'll do procedurally is if we can read the bylaw here, and then if people are interested, you can read that the motion and the option 2, which is to amend, would be in order. So we'll get the main motion read first.
Thank you, Worship. And just for clarity, in the staff report, it talks about amending the Heritage Revitalization Agreement bylaw at second reading. So should the bylaw be read as listed for first reading and then amended at second reading?
Just so I don't get this wrong, I'm going to turn to staff. Ms. Plouffe, I believe we do first and second reading and then we amend. Is that the process? Correct. Okay, so yes, so you just read first and second reading. Before I call the question, we'll have a motion to amend.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So I would move that 1558 Beach Drive Heritage Revitalization Agreement Authorization Bylaw number 4912, 2025 be read a first and second time.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. So just for clarification, I don't call the question on this. We would just go to a motion to amend, and we'll debate that motion to amend. Ms. Plouffe?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay. So if someone wants, and council wishes to move an amendment, you're more than welcome to do so. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be happy to move an amendment. Would you like me to read out the entire amendment for the amenity cost charges bylaw?
So you can just basically put in there that I would just say maybe perhaps read aloud the first part, the council will amend, and then just say as listed in the thing. And really the important part here would be a percentage, or if you want to do it a different fashion, that would be appropriate. Go ahead.
I'd like to amend that the amenity cost charges bylaw number 48.
No, can you just read the thing that's here, the council amend 1558 Beach Drive Heritage Revitalization Bylaw? That's an option too.
Maybe I'm not looking at a different spot than you. On this.
On page 10 of the report. If somebody else has it open, I'll take somebody else to read it.
I have page 10. I have page 10 open. I'm just not clear on what. Are you talking about halfway through the paragraph? So I'm looking at 7.2 on page 10.
So you need to read the first part just above that.
Oh, the council amend 1558 Beach Drive Heritage Revitalization Agreement Bylaw 4912-2025 at second reading by adding the following wording in Schedule A of the bylaw as new section 7.2 and specifying the percentage of reduction to be applied.
And I don't need you to read out the rest of it, but you can just name that percentage if you wish.
Yes, I'm going to propose 100%, and I would like to motivate if possible.
Sure. Thank you for that. And we'll see if there's a seconder for 100%. Second. Moved and seconded. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. When we had the ACCs and DCCs around the table and we're discussing that the way they would be rolled out would be that development applications that were in stream would have a year, I certainly was thinking that that included our heritage revitalization agreements because they really do act as an alternate process to rezoning and development permits. They're all the same character, so I feel like this is really a technicality. And if someone had asked me on that day when we were passing the ACCs and DCCs if I wanted to also include the heritage revitalization agreements, I would have agreed to it. And so I feel in principle, especially considering the report with the land lift and also just the amenities that are coming with this project, that it's very supportable from the point of view of the risk that the applicant has taken on in this already 2-year process financially to go through many revisions. When you do this, you put together a pro forma to make sure everything works, and it's quite a significant cost to revitalize a building like this. And at this stage, potentially a complete redesign to make the numbers work. So I really feel that in principle, it's not fair to say, oh, now actually we looked into it and the details show that we don't have to charge this.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton, and then.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I see this, I am a big supporter and big proponent of DCCs, ACCs. These will help us support future amenities that we need in our community. But I concur with Councillor Smart that during the discussion that we had around DCCs and ACCs and bringing these into place, that it was very much that there was a real strong interest in protecting in-stream applications, or at least considering in-stream applications in the context of that. And I would concur that I would see this HRA as being an in-stream application that would be subject to that 1-year exemption. So I see it as essentially a topic of fairness and equitability as compared to other types of submissions, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you. I really hear what my colleagues are saying on this, but I don't think, I'm going to vote against this because I don't want to see the costs for this get pushed to others. So I just can't agree with that for this particular project. I think that I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Watson.
I will be supporting the motion. I think I was, hearing this, I was completely surprised and taken aback that this would not have been captured under the exemption that was granted to applications in process. And I even wonder, I'm sure someone's asked the question, if the province really did mean to exclude heritage revitalization agreements. Because as our staff always tell us when they bring one of these forward, in effect they act just like a rezoning, and that we get benefits from entertaining that process. And so really the two things are almost equivalent, and so I have no problem, given all the circumstances around this, of suggesting that of recommending that the charges be waived 100% for this application.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree with the decision of most of the council members that have spoken. I think my take on it is just a little bit different, though, because I do recognize that it is an HRA, and waiving the ACCs and DCCs is an important tool in perhaps saving some of the heritage properties. So I too, you know, it's not whether it was in stream or not. I think that this is something that, even for future consideration, this council or future councils will use this as a tool to help preserve the heritage homes in Oak Bay. So I do support it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you for the comments made. I don't think I have much to add. When I read through the report, I wasn't sure I was supportive. I thought waiving them to a degree, 33%, 50%, 75%, something of that nature, was appropriate. The total amount is not massive. It's $150,000 in total, so probably not a make or break piece. But I do hear the argument made, and I think the one that stands out to me is that we've undertaken a process to waive these pieces until the first year is complete, to give people, the in-stream pieces, a chance not to have to redo their pro formas from ground up. This being a heritage revitalization agreement doesn't substantially change that intent. And I do, but I agree with Councillor Patterson. I don't think they should be waived automatically for heritage revitalization agreements. I think that it's a helpful tool for us to be able to find some incentives for people to make those changes in future. So I'll leave that there. I think I can support the motion that's on the floor, swayed by the conversation that's happened to this point. Any other discussion? I am not seeing any, so I'm going to call the question. The motion right now is, as the amendment has said, to essentially to waive the ACC-DCC costs. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That motion carries. So that's the amendment. So we didn't call the question on the main motion for second reading at this point, correct? So we now have to call the main motion. Making sure I'm getting this right, so we don't have to come back here. Oh, Ms. Bloof.
That's correct, Your Worship. It would be as amended.
Yeah. So we just need the motion as is live on the floor. With basically the second first is that we're at second reading as amended. Any other discussion on this? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That carries. So this will be going forward to public hearing. I don't think we have a date set at this time, do we? No. Okay. I don't believe there's anything else on this item. Just want to turn to staff to make sure I'm not missing anything. It's complicated. Lots of things going on. Okay, we're good on the, not in the room here, but just in the overall application process. Oh, Councillor Green.
If I might, Your Worship, I just wanted to add that if the public hearing, when the public hearing occurs, I would advise that we hold it at a time when people are most available. Mm-hmm. So not in the middle of the summer, for instance. I think that doesn't work well. I think we need to give the community a good opportunity to be here and participate. Thank you.
I'll just maybe turn to staff. Do we have a sense of when this might be happening? I know there's some work, just reading through the list of things that have to be done prior to the public hearing. I can't see it happening too quickly, but Ms. Plouffe?
Thank you, Your Worship. We are looking at mid to end of September.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Braithwaite?
Yeah, Mayor, just about my motion to refer to a reconvened HCA working group for input. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that now.
Yeah, I don't have any suggestions on that one. It's really hard to refer to something that doesn't exist, so we'd have to, Mr. McStravick or any member of staff, any thoughts? Mr. Bull? No one's rushing to grab a microphone.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I've just confirmed that we're just of course, updating our OCP. Revising the heritage conservation area is not included in the scope currently. So if there were an interest for that, then we would need to kind of make sure it fits. It would be added it would need to be added pretty quickly because we're in the midst of that project. So from the limited history that I have on this, and I'm not that long with Oak Bay, but that working group was a couple of years ago when the HCA was created. So it's entirely up to council to decide if there's any revisions or a different project perhaps needs to be considered. But at this point, we're not planning or anticipating making any changes. So thank you.
What I might make is, just thinking about this a little bit, I might make a suggestion that when it goes to public hearing, because the intention of that working group was never to keep reconvening on things. It was to create the guidelines that would be used to assess applications. So knowing changes would come, that those changes would be considered within the within that HCA guidelines. So just, I think if we make sure that we include those guidelines with the OCP or with the public hearing package, so people can, if they're looking at this application, they can look at it with that context readily available. That would be, I think, would be quite helpful for people. That's about the only thing I can think of on this, Councillor Braithwaite. But I'll take your direction if you have a suggestion.
I mean, I hear what you're saying is that it's really hard to refer something to a working group that's not there. It's unfortunate that it's not there because I know they had two heritage consultants on it that I think could have given some really good input. I think that if we're going to include the HCA guidelines in the public hearing application, then that is going to have to suffice, because I'm not sure that I would get any support around the table if I made a referral to a group that's not even in a meeting right now. So I guess that's going to have to suffice.
It might help to know that the heritage consultants do live in Oak Bay and probably have an interest and maybe voluntarily interested in providing their feedback. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to mention that the Heritage Commission has expressed, not recently, but previously, ongoing interest in having a workshop with Council and the Heritage Commission present around the HCA, and just making sure that the education around our table and the Commission is at a high standard for those guidelines. And so I just put that out there for information should there be a communal desire to make something like that happen in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I appreciate Councillor Smart's comments on that. And further to that, as liaison to the Heritage Foundation, I can certainly undertake to convey to members of the Heritage Foundation and their constituency who may have been involved in the discussions around the Heritage Conservation Area development to, engage and provide their feedback on what's going to come forward at the public hearing. I think they would do so anyway, but I think I would bring to their particular attention Councillor Braithwaite's comments about the expertise that was found in that advisory body, and have both those people and those in the broader community be engaged. So I can certainly undertake that as Heritage Foundation liaison to express that specifically to them. And the meeting is tomorrow, Your Worship.
Thank you. I will just point out as well, I do note in the conversation here today that when this was sent back for revisions, the applicants did use those heritage guidelines, heritage conservation area guidelines, as their principles for making those changes. So I think that's an important aspect. They are live and in use for this process. Councillor Green?
Yeah, I was just going to add, if it's appropriate, that the members of the Heritage Foundation and Commission be encouraged to attend the public hearing, and I believe, are they able to participate as well?
Yeah, any member of the public is welcome to
so
attend.
I think
they can
that,
identify themselves as such or represent
I think
those
that's an
entities.
important message to send to each of those bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. I noticed the heritage consultant did raise up the guidelines as their guiding principle. We can't really do that at this point, yeah. Okay, so I don't see any other aspects on this item on the agenda, so I am going to move on. We're going to move to section 8.2. Thank you very much to the applicants, to the neighbors and residents. Enjoy the summer evening. Hopefully it's just as beautiful out there now as it was earlier. Thank you. We move to 8.2, Streets and Traffic Bylaw. This is not for public input. It's just a motion for adoption.
I'll move that the Streets and Traffic Bylaw number 4100 2000 Amendment Bylaw number 4908 2025 be adopted.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. We move then to item number 9.1, which is the Parks, Recreation and Culture fees and charges. We have Mr. Soulier, our newish Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture, and very pleased to have you here in the room. Mr. Soulier, I think this might be the first time we've had a real kind of dialogue, and so pleased to have you here and welcome your brief introduction.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Council. Yes, Thomas Soulier, the Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. This is, in fact, my first presentation. I am grateful for the support of my colleague, Camille Larocque, the Manager of Administrative and Reception Services with our Parks, Rec and Culture team as well for the presentation and question period after. So We do have a brief presentation that we'll walk through with council. And really the focus, as noted on the title slide, is the proposed amendments to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Fees and Charges Bylaw. As you know, the Fees and Charges Bylaw is an authority granted through Local Government Act to enact a bylaw for the purpose of providing fees to the public for services rendered by the municipality. One of the primary objectives is to recover some of the costs associated with delivering those services. We've highlighted on this slide other factors, principles that are associated with this bylaw. In particular, the financial sustainability and cost recovery, transparency in the fees, as well as the affordability and balancing the needs of affordable access for residents as well. Last year, Council will recall that you endorsed an implementation plan based on a third-party economic analysis. That report provided a series of recommendations related to the fee adjustments, related to future fee adjustments, and staff have incorporated several of these recommendations as part of the amendments that are proposed in this bylaw. One of the aspects that staff explored in depth was a review of fees planned in the region, so those provided by other municipal service providers. And council may already know that approximately 60% of the patrons that utilize Oak Bay Parks and Recreation facilities are from outside of the district, so alignment in the region is of importance. Although the posted fee schedule includes several changes, for the purposes of this presentation, we will be focusing on the three areas that are highlighted on the slide, the restructuring of the admissions and membership products, changes to golf course green fees and pass rates, and adjustments to child and youth categories. I would also like to note that this bylaw doesn't account for all the user fees that the department charges. This is very much specific to admissions and facility rentals. It does not include, for example, the registered program fees, which make up the majority of the fees that are charged. And those are primarily based, they fluctuate from season to season based primarily on market conditions. So in terms of the admission products, the admission passes, whether single entry or multi-visit, are typically calculated using the adult admission fee as the baseline. So all other discount rates are accounted for based on that rate. For the coming year, staff have recommended a 25-cent increase to the price of a single adult admission and an 11% increase to the adult annual pass. For comparison purposes, you'll see the table on the slide. It's also in the report. Outlines the proposed adult admission and annual pass fees within the region. So you'll see where Oak Bay sits relative to our other service providers in the region. And at this point, we understand that service providers in the region are looking at adjustments in the range of 3 to 5%. Updates are also proposed to the products associated with the Henderson Par 3 golf course. As one of the few municipal courses in the region, the Henderson course provides an accessible and affordable golf experience for all ages and skill levels. Its condensed layout makes it ideal for beginners, families, and older adults, while offering a fun and challenging option for experienced players as well. It is important to note that other comparable facilities in the region are larger and generally offer additional features and amenities that cannot be provided at Henderson. Staff have included increases of between $1 and $1.75 to the green fees and a 20% increase to the price of an adult season's pass. As noted in the report, staff have recommended also combining the youth and child categories in 2025. Most municipalities have already taken this step, and we understand that others are in the process of doing this. This would mean a slight increase to the child rate of approximately 13% and a slight decrease in the youth rate. Reducing the youth rate will lower financial barriers for teens who are often less engaged in recreation and are more price sensitive. The table shown lists the proposed 2025-26 child and youth admission rates across the region. As council knows well, cost escalation and growing demands have resulted in cost increases for service delivery over the past several years. These financial pressures highlight the importance of a consistent and frequent review of fees. Council will recall that last year, for example, was the first time in approximately 10 years that the adult annual pass was updated. The proposed amendments support continued growth in admissions and facility rental revenues and positively impact on the overall recovery rate. If the proposed adjustments are approved, the projected revenue for 2025 is approximately $50,000 and $150,000 for a full fiscal year. And you'll note the effective date for the fees is September 1st. We have a second effective date in April of 2026 due to the seasonal nature of the golf program, for example. We would like to note that this is a conservative estimate and it does not take into account potential increases in volume. Pending council approval and adoption of the bylaw amendment, staff will communicate the adjustments to patrons through our various channels and ensure that it is well communicated in advance of the September effective date. And at this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soulier. Are there questions from members of council to staff? Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Director Soulier. I just had a question around page 11 of 12 of the report, just with regards to the meeting room and sports room increased rates, just because compared to a lot of things, they did increase significantly. And I wondered if you could just touch on who the typical users are, who typically rent those types of spaces, and were they consulted at all? And does staff have assurance that like those rooms will still rent at those rates? And primarily my questions are around the concern of, you know, small nonprofit groups no longer having access to meeting rooms. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Smart. We unfortunately were not able to consult with user groups on that price change, but both rooms are used by similar groups. The one room we've just realized is quite larger in size, has more amenities, including a kitchen and barbecue access. So we felt that it deserved a little bit of a higher price point than the room across the hall.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Could I just, for my, I interpreted something, but I always never hurts to just ask the question. When there's a rental that is without catering is higher than the with catering, I'm assuming that that is because there's a revenue source from the catering. The catering refers to the internal catering through me to staff.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. I'm kind of down at the bottom of the list again as well. I'm just kind of interested in that, and this is not necessarily a question about it's more a question about the current status of review of film production costs, and that may or may not have been considered with this round of amendments, but we did such I felt that the comprehensive analysis of sort of like regional costing that was done approximately a year ago that helped to inform rates really helped us be really constructive in how we landed on our race. We were sort of, you know, it was a little bit more nebulous before. Really strong decision-making information there that we now have in front of us. So these decisions are not easy because you don't want to raise rates, but they're based on really concrete information. I'm wondering, how can we do something similar with the film production costs? Because I think that, to my mind, at least at first glance, and an uneducated observer says that, you know, there's the possibility for additional revenue there, but you don't want to disincentivize a local economic driver either. That would have to be based on an analysis of similar types of charges in other jurisdictions. So is such an analysis contemplated so that we could evaluate these costs as well?
Mr. Soulier.
Through the Mayor, at this point in time, that type of detailed analysis is not contemplated, but it certainly is something that we should have on our list for the future. That industry is particularly price sensitive, and there are, as you know, a wide range of factors that go into whether an area is appealing for film production crews, including responsiveness and the types of features and amenities that you have in place. But to answer your question, no, we don't have that in place, but it will be something that is on our list for the future.
Thank you. I guess the only other broader question I have here, and it's a little bit of a tricky one to answer. We have a resolution here asking or giving some direction to me to go and speak to some of all the other recreation providers in the region, just looking at bringing the overall recovery rate up to closer to sort of 70-80% range from the more like 60 to 70% range in the region right now. Obviously has a major impact on our budget line item. I'm just curious if any sort of thoughts on, this is a stepping stone, obviously. We're essentially keeping baseline inflationary cost increases. And I'm not sure it's even an answerable question, but do you see any alignment in terms of what we're doing here now and the potential for looking more broadly at higher recovery rates in the medium term? Through me to you, Mr. Soulier.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the analysis of recovery rate, I think, would probably start with a definition of sort of what's in and what's out of the revenues and the costs, because when you look across the region, there, the departments responsible for that are configured slightly differently. Right. So that would be one consideration. As noted in the report and the presentation, staff do discuss regularly both the service opportunities and challenges, as well as the fees and charges that are applicable in our industry. So there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of opportunity for intelligence gathering through that process to explore opportunities for some sort of common practice or policy across the region. We do have examples across the region in terms of close collaboration. For example, the Leisure Involvement for Everyone program, the LIFE program, which is a program designed to remove financial barriers to those that face financial challenges in their access to recreation. And positive examples like that are certainly potential building blocks that we could consider.
Great. Thank you for that. With that, I might turn to the body here and get a motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? I do want to just see if there's anybody online interested in speaking to us on this matter before we get to approvals of any of the bylaw portions of this. So we have nobody else left in the room except for staff and council. So just looking online, if there's anybody who wishes to speak to us about the Park, Recreation and Culture fees and charges. I am not seeing hands popping up, so I'm going to come back to this table and we'll move to first and second.
I'll move that Parks, Recreation and Culture fees and charges bylaw number 4777, 2021, amendment bylaw number 4911, 2025 be read for the first and second time.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Braithwaite.
Yeah, thanks so much. I just want to thank staff so much for putting all the time and energy into this and getting it to us in a timely manner. And I also really want to thank you for reducing the youth rate because I think that that's going to make a really big difference, and it's an important demographic for us. And if we can increase the usage by that demographic, I think that bodes well for our community and get them involved a little bit more in recreation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. I will be supporting the motion, but I just do want to just highlight my concern around a couple of those meeting room charges, but specifically thinking about things like community fitness classes that happen in those spaces, and this just obviously those that financial impact is going to either make it on to everybody's user fees for those activities, or it's going to mean that they're no longer using spaces in our community. So I would hope just that if staff sees a lot of space not getting rented, that they would share that information with council. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have first and second reading on the books. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed?
And I'll move that Parks, Recreation and Culture fees and charges bylaw number 4777, 2021, amendment bylaw number 4911, 2025 be read a third time.
Second.
Seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. Thank you, everybody, and for your comments. Thank you, staff. Welcome, Mr. Soulier. I think technically because this wasn't your first meeting, we haven't ended up, usually the first meeting you have to present at ends up being a sort of a 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning affair. So by some strange tradition of how things work out. So it was probably good you showed up at the other meeting just to break the curse. I am moving, sorry, I want to make sure I got my notes in the right order here, and I've just skipped a page, so give me a second. Oh, I did, yes. But I have under 10, the notices of motion. So we have a notice of motion that was read into the meeting at the last meeting from Councillor Appleton. Councillor Appleton, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is to evaluate pedestrian access options for Windsor Park. And I think that I might, with your discretion, I might seek to amend the motion that was submitted to broaden it out a little bit. It was made sort of in response to a request at the time of the meeting. So I would move an amended motion, which would read that staff draft a report with options to improve pedestrian access to Windsor Park for council consideration, including appropriate crosswalk options for all sides of the park.
Just give me a second. I would consider that, yeah, absolutely in line with the intent of the original motion, so I'm fine with that being read in. So it's moved and seconded. Over to you if you wish to motivate. I think it's really straightforward.
Yeah, no, I want to acknowledge Councillor Braithwaite was going to make a similar motion at that time, and I'm sort of, part of the amendment is to respond to what we've both heard, and I think a lot of members of council have heard about sort of evaluating options. I think that there are some key access points to Windsor Park, and I think the point is well made as far as some areas are difficult to access. I live on Windsor, so I pass there all the time, and I think that the points are well made. So I think evaluating how pedestrian access can be made safer from all sides of the park, I think is a real admirable goal. So I look forward to hearing what staff come back with as far as options analysis, how that might be accomplished.
Okay, thank you. I think actually I had Councillor Braithwaite and then Green, but
I'm just happy that that we're going to be looking at, as Councillor Appleton said, at all aspects of the park. I think it's very, very important, and especially after hearing stories like what we did tonight as well. A new park there, it just adds to the possibility of people getting injured if there's no proper crosswalks for them to use. So I'm very happy to support this.
Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you. I am too. I'm grateful to both of you for bringing this forward. It's clear that that park is very busy on all sides, and I've been to the park many times with my grandchildren. Curry is busy, Windsor is busy, Transit, and of course Newport. So I think it's really very wise to look at the park holistically. But thank you both for bringing this forward.
Okay, we seem to have support around the table. I think I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. Looking for notices of motion. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. I have a notice of motion to bring forward related to a previous piece tonight. So I have submitted this in writing to Ms. Plouffe as well as the mayor, but this will be a notice of motion that everybody can look at later. That arts applicants, upon applying for grant and aid directly to Oak Bay, be advised that Oak Bay funds the arts generously through the CRD Arts Commission granting process, and that only arts applications that do not meet the CRD's criteria will be considered by council in Oak Bay's grant and aid process.
The record, and it'll come on to in written form at a future meeting for consideration. Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion? I have one that's I'm also going to read into the record here as well for consideration at a future meeting, and that it therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to prepare and bring forward proposed amendments to the streets and traffic bylaw to enable staff to exercise discretion in granting exemptions to the 24-hour parking limit for vehicles that display both a valid Oak Bay parking permit and a valid parking permit for people with disabilities. It'll be explained later, but just to read it into the record. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Oh, sorry, we're still on your, you just read that into the record?
Just reading into the record, so it'll come on the next meeting.
So I just want to clarify, because earlier you talked about motions arising, and I have a motion arising, but
Sure.
Can I you do that now, or do you want it subsequent to? It's a new business. Is it really a new business item? It has to do with our grants discussion.
It's interesting because we don't actually have a new business under
I
thing, so
know,
let's do it under
yes.
notice of motion.
Okay, all right. So I'll that item then.
Do you want to read in?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So my motion
Oh,
arising.
sorry, Ms. Plouffe, did you wish to? procedurally here?
I can wait until after Councillor Watson puts hers in. My question was just that I thought Councillor Smart was wanting to do a motion arising under new business, but that came out as a notice of motion. Is that
Yes.
changed? Okay.
That's what I heard, is notice of motion. Yeah, we'll have it in writing and consider it at a future meeting. Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Well, I'll try it as a motion arising. Let's see what happens. Could I change my mind to, okay. So here's my motion, and it does relate to our discussion around our grants awards tonight. And so the motion is that the mayor be requested to, or the mayor write a letter to the Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission to consider an alternative funding model that reflects the organization's ongoing need for municipal support from across the South Island, and which allocates the costs to participating municipalities in a predictable fashion. I know that's a lot of words, but...
So you'd like that to be, I suppose, a motion arising out of the granting process. I'm
Yes.
just wondering if I have to have Councillor Braithwaite step out of the meeting for this one. I probably do. I'm not going to ask you, but I'll take it that you're declaring a conflict here, as you sit on the commission's board. So we'll just have you step out for a moment. So I just want to make sure I'm doing this procedurally correctly. So we have it as a motion arising. Is there a seconder then for consideration of that today? Go ahead, Councillor Smart. Thank you. So go ahead, Councillor Watson. Please, your floor to motivate.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I bring this motion forward because I was struck again this year that the Film Commission operates kind of as a going concern in the community, and unlike many of the other projects, or all the other projects that come to us in our annual granting process, it in effect relies on its municipal kind of partners to provide this support year to year. And it's very equivalent in that regard to SIP in terms of their work as an economic development agent. And in fact, they are an economic development agent when you actually look at what they're doing. And I thought that some consideration of a different approach to doing this might be a good one for not just Oak Bay, but also for the other municipalities who they're making these requests to. So that there could be benefit all the way around for looking at an alternative way that provided some predictability and maybe a more measured and fair allocation across municipalities, as opposed to a kind of what may be a rather hit and miss approach for them right now. So I'm not suggesting that I know how their business operates or what they should do, but there are other models than this one that would take this, that might take this out of our annual review for grants and aid, for really things which are more community-based, I guess, too. This is a fairly large organization. Well, I mean, it's not a huge organization, but it's got a fairly large mandate that it spans not just Oak Bay, but the whole region. So that's my argument for actually bringing this forward as a motion arising.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, for clarification, just so we understand what so the motion was to direct me to write a letter. Okay, so essentially then the question here from around the table is if there's any specific thoughts or direction that would be helpful, but also if we're comfortable with the current annual grant and aid, which gives us the chance of reviewing their effectiveness, but has the negative of fitting into a sort of an odd continuity program, then I think there would be if you want to keep it the way it is, then vote against this. And if because even though it's just to write a letter, it essentially supports that we would support a different approach. So those would be the two aspects that I would think in part of the consideration. Councillor Appleton and then Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, and I appreciate this motion coming forward. And I think I do actually support communicating with the Commission to ask about other options for it. And I think one of the main drivers for that for me, I've also asked similar questions just about, how this fits as a community grant. And I'm very, very much in support of the work of the Commission. I think it's essential work, and I think we want to keep film and those types of productions on the South Island. But I guess what triggers this for me, especially this year, is that there was a significant increase in the ask. And it was 10,000. It has remained at fairly static for a number of years, but it's increased the number. So it says to me, there are additional exigencies. There's more work that needs to happen. I think that the organization might benefit by, as Councillor Watson says, increased certainty as far as stability in funding sources from communities. I'd certainly like to have that conversation. But certainly the increase in the ask, combined with the fact that we just have an expanded ask from the community more broadly, more demand for the community grants, where does that, how sustainable is that long-term in the community granting space, is I guess my question. So I'm certainly fully in support of the work of the commission, but I think this might come to a head if their ask is going up and the number of asks that we have to distribute a finite amount of money are drawing that down. So,
Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I will support it. I do appreciate that it is being brought forward. I think, though, that an important component of it is the benefit to the communities that are asked for the contributions. So some communities that may not benefit to the same extent that Oak Bay does may not want to contribute very much. And so perhaps just my guidance to you, Mayor, is that maybe that, you take that into consideration when you're writing your correspondence, that it is also, we have to, as a community, take in the financial benefit to our community of the agency doing this as compared to some of the others. And I don't know if they will share all of that information with you or not, but I think that's an important component of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Green.
Yes, Mayor Green. Thank you. I don't. It's not that I don't support the motion, but I think I haven't had a real chance to process and think about it. And Councillor Patterson makes a good point. As the liaison to the Tourism Committee, the Film Commission brings a huge amount of revenue to this community as a result of their activity here, and it helps everyone, small businesses, local economies, the village economies. And so I'm not sure I'm ready to support a motion. I think it requires further discussion. And I think it would require further information from the commission itself. I don't know how they work in other communities, but I do know that Oak Bay is one of the hotbeds for filming, as we know. So I can't support it at this time, but it doesn't mean I'm against it. And I appreciate your bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just speak briefly. I'll support the motion. I love writing letters. No, I think that this is I'm thinking through this already and appreciate you raising it. At end of the day, I think there probably is a better funding model that is available that would give them some certainty. I don't think this is dictating. I mean, we haven't pushed back hard on anything. I think we're supportive of the industry, supportive of that. There is, I would argue, there's actually quite a bit of benefit to communities that don't pay into it right now, because there are people with jobs and environmental, like a lot of people working in the industry are not living in Oak Bay and paying taxes, but they're, but we see some of the filming here, right? So there's the benefits are shared. And I think if there was more certainty for them, they would spend less time going around to grant applications annually and have more certainty of staffing and things. So I think there's positives there for them and for the other municipalities. So I'm happy to write a letter just to open the question. If they don't want to explore it, that kind of, it dies in the water anyway. So I think the letter asking is appropriate. So I'm comfortable with the motion as it's laid out, and I appreciate it, Councillor Watson. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Green opposed. Thank you. That carries. Pull up my pen. Thank you. Yes, thanks, Tom. Welcome back, Councillor Braithwaite. We have the last item on the agenda, in the area of the agenda tonight is a correspondence with other governments or agencies. We have, did I miss something? No, I'm good. We have a request from both Songhees Nation and the Esquimalt Nation on events that are coming up in their calendar that we don't have budgeted but are seeking some funding for. So I think Ms. LaChance is online because we don't necessarily have clarity here about how or if we could possibly respond to that in a timely fashion or in a pool of money that we don't, if it's not in the grants process. So Ms. LaChance, I assume you're online. Murphy's Law, oh, wait, no, you're there. I thought Murphy's Law would have you have stepped away right at the moment that we were about to ask you the question. So we're on 12, we're just treating 12.1 and 12.2 communally at this point, and just, I understand from talking to staff before the meeting that you would have probably some information about if we were to say interested in giving a, I think we gave $2,000 last time to the elders lunch. If we're interested in maybe providing sort of similar levels of funding this year for the two events, if there's funding available, and if so, where that would come from, or would we have to go back to the grant model, or yeah, I'll just hand it over to you to maybe just give us some information on these requests that came in recently.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I am definitely able to provide some options for council to consider as though both requests are received this evening. So there are three options that I think are available to council. The first is there is still a reserve amount from the direct discretionary grant and aid budget from this evening. The second option would be to reach into the special project initiative budget for First Nations that's within the approved financial plan for 2025 to 2029. That total amount is was budgeted at $50,000, has been used to some extent by staff as they're executing their work plan for the year. But that's, as I understand it, some is available for council. And then lastly, council could reach back to the unallocated surplus or unappropriated surplus from 2023 that does remain. So I'll leave it at that.
I was talking without the microphone on. My apologies. Thank you, Ms. LaChance, for that. So we have options of either the grants, which I just trying to make sure we have a reserve hold of, I guess now about just over $6,000 remaining. We have some money in our First Nations portion, and we have some unallocated surplus, but that's a less specified amount. I guess so. Two questions of council: are we interested in providing some funding to these asks? If so, is the sort of the range that they were asked, provided last time sort of what people are thinking, or are we thinking of a different amount? And then what pool people might be interested in pulling from? I'll just go ahead, Councillor Green. I saw your hand first.
Thank you very much. I think we should support both of these events. I was thinking something, and I don't want to parse all this and get way down in the weeds, but I was thinking of $5,000 to each organization, and we could. I don't know if we can pull from each of the three options simultaneously, or it all has to come out of one option. But if we have the ability to pool from the three sources, that would help us, I guess. But I think it's worth the investment in building the relationship.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Appleton, then Braithwaite. Oh, Councillor Braithwaite, then Appleton.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't disagree that we shouldn't give to both. However, when I look at the first request, I would like to give at the $2,000 level, which is what we gave last time. And my reasoning for that would be that when we look at how much City of Victoria is giving, they're giving they're giving $10,000. They have about 96,000 people in their community. We give $2,000. We have about 18,000 people in our community. That works out to be about the same rate per person within our community. For the other one, I'm open to giving at the $5,000 level. But for the first one, I'm leaning towards, my mind could be changed, but I'm leaning towards giving at the same level as we gave last year.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Go ahead, Councillor Smart, and then Patterson. Oh, sorry, Appleton next, and then Smart and Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, yeah, definitely in favor of funding both of these. I would definitely be in favor of, I think my inclination would be to fund the elders' lunch request at a similar level to what we've done before. I think Esquimalt Nation, the request this is a broader scale event that could potentially warrant a larger scale donation. I think 5,000 is probably in the right range. I would advocate, in terms of source of funding, I would advocate that we draw from unallocated surplus for this. I think we should probably want to keep the amount remaining, that the unallocated surplus for grant and aid for the balance of the year. We've proven that we've needed that on a couple of different occasions, so I'd like that to stay in place. Similarly, with the Indigenous funding, I think we probably want to keep that unallocated at this time, pending we're having constructive conversations with both the Songhees and the Esquimalt. We wouldn't want to presuppose what type of work we might want to do with them in the future and use that. So I would advocate maybe a $2,000 and a $5,000 donation drawn from unallocated surplus, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have Smart and Patterson.
Yeah, thank you. My instinct upon reading the correspondence was to similarly to Councillor Green to do 5,000 for each, and that was based a little bit on looking at it still seems to me to be quite a significant event to have 300 to 400 elders, and I just feel symbolically giving the same amount to both nations just feels better to me, and I would suggest the unallocated surplus. Particularly, I would love to keep our reserve grant and aid, because as we saw last year, there's always a project that comes up that it's nice to just have that set aside still.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I think like other councillors around the table, I do feel that we should support both of these events. I was, for the Elders event, I was thinking a slight bump up to maybe 2,500 or 3,000 this year, I guess, in keeping in mind that we will, I would think, get a request also for the powwow from the Songhees, and that is a more major cost to us and also important for us to support that event. So yes, I do appreciate 300 to 400 elders is really important, but I keep in mind that there are other considerations for the powwow. With the Esquimalt, I would suggest a $5,000 donation would be in order, and I too believe that it should be coming from the unallocated surplus. I don't think we should take it from the special projects for First Nations. I think that money should be retained because it's still relatively early in the year. So those are my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Councillor Watson, do you want to add anything? And I'll speak, and then I'll go back to second-hand speakers if necessary.
Yes, thank you. I support both of these requests going forward, and I think something in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $3,000 for the Elders event for the Songhees Nation is appropriate, and I think a larger amount, $5,000 for the Tribal Journeys, is appropriate. It's a big deal to organize all these people and bring them together and get them safely across the waters. So I think it would be wonderful if we could contribute at that level.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to suggest maybe a couple of motions that I've heard around the table of a mix of those things. I think I'm fully supportive. I think the 2,500 for the lunch and 5,000 for the Tribal Journeys makes a lot of sense to me. And I think if dealing with an unallocated surplus is appropriate, given this is unexpected cost and a one-time. If it becomes a continuing thing, I think we need to look at it from more. Is this where are we going to be more strategic? So I might probably look for motions to those. It's probably separately for those two things. I did just want to acknowledge the importance of the Tribal Journeys event. I had a conversation a number of months ago with Chief Thomas, who was looking for some potential places to come ashore, because they have some very specific requirements, and was able to put him in touch with some potential places and people to do that. So it was, I know this is a really, he voiced at that time how important this event was for them and for their new council to be able to host it. And so I think it's quite positive that we have the ability to contribute to this. It's not an ongoing event, it's a very special event for them. So maybe I'll just take motions to that effect. I think those will probably have support, and then we can get amendments if we see fit. So sorry, go ahead, Councillor. I saw Councillor Green's hand.
I just wanted to add one more argument for equity, and the two amounts of the same. This is National Indigenous Month, June, and I think it's an important symbolic month. And this may be one of the few opportunities we have to fund an important event. And the elders are hundreds of people, the tribal journey, hundreds of people. So I see equity there, and symbolically I see equity. We are trying to build relationships with both of them. I think if I was Songhees, and they are a larger nation, I might question the fact that, they got a lesser amount. So I'm just encouraging us to relook at the 5,000 each. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just see. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Yeah, I'll actually make a motion that we fund, you want them two separately, yes?
We can do them together. There's
Okay.
no inherent
I would
reason
make
to-
a motion that we fund the Songhees Nation Elders Lunch
Actually, we'll do them separately, yeah.
for $2,500.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded?
And I hear what Councillor Green, through you, Mayor, I hear what Councillor Green is saying for equity, but I also hear what Councillor Patterson said around the amount of money that we give towards the powwow as well. And so that's kind of where my head's going, and that's why I feel pretty comfortable giving differing amounts.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just very briefly, I feel very similar. Councillor Green's point is well made, and I absolutely agree. But I think we're also making a really strong statement here and commenting really strongly about our support. Councillor Patterson's point is very, very well made about support for the powwow. District of Oak Bay supported the powwow for a number of years, has sent extensive representation there, sees the significance of that event. I think that the district will be supportive of that event in years to come. So I think the district has shown their commitment to contributing to local events hosted by Songhees. So I think that there's arguments on both sides, but I think that the powwow is an equivalently important thing to support. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this.
I just want to add to my motion,
sorry,
that it would come from the unallocated reserves.
Is a
Sorry.
seconder amendable to that? Unallocated surplus? Thank you. That's what you want. Okay. Thank you. So the motion on the floor is to approve funding $2,500 for the Island Elders Lunch for funding him to come from unallocated reserves. That's the motion. Seconded. Discussion. Any other discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Just quickly,
More than smart.
in the spirit of economic prosperity sharing, we can afford to fund them at $5,000 each. That's all I'm saying.
Councillor Smart.
Yeah, I want to echo my desire to fund them the same amount, and so I won't be supporting the motion.
Then I'm not certain of the outcome, but we will find out soon enough when I call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? I have Councillor Green and Councillor Smart opposed. That carries.
And then I'll make a motion that we fund the Esquimalt Nation Tribal Journeys event to the amount of $5,000 to come from our unallocated surplus. Yeah.
Seconded. Okay. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Smart. I was going to ask for adjournment, but you've interrupted me.
I missed during council meeting email from staff in which there was some slight rewording of my notice of motion. So I just wanted to ask, is it possible to reread my notice of motion, or shall I deal with that as an amendment in the meantime and bring it back another way?
Yeah, it's the same spirit and intention. Is that of the motion, or do you wish to?
Yeah, it's basically just to shift it right to the policy piece so that it's in the policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's minor enough. We can just, when it comes back, work with staff and get the exact wording you want. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think it's just really just to trigger that there.
It's
this
the
will be
same
coming back.
intention, but I just wanted to bring it
Yeah.
up. Thank you.
Since we're not debating it tonight, I'm fine with that. So thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Adjournment.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. Thank you very much, everyone.